Hello, nice to see you on my channel, Hearts and Shadows. Enjoy watching.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name's Jeffrey. When life changes, people change. Not because they become someone else, but because who they really are finally comes out. And yeah, I'm talking about my wife. Or ex-wife, I should say. The moment life handed her a fortune she didn't work for and everything tilted in her favor, that's when her mask slipped, and I saw her for who she really was. What followed after that? Well, let's just say, if you think money changes everything, you're right. But not always in the way you expect. This happened on a Wednesday. I got off work around 6, same as usual. My job was a warehouse supervisor at a logistics company, decent hours, honest work, but nowhere near what I used to earn. Still, I was grateful to be working at all. The sun was already dipping when I pulled into the driveway, and I was just tired. I wasn't expecting anything. I even remember thinking I might take a longer shower that evening, maybe get a minute of quiet before dinner. When I walked into the house, the first thing I saw was Vanessa sitting on the couch with her two brothers. Now, that didn't throw me off. Those two pop in every now and then. They've always been close, always had a reason to be around. I nodded toward them and kept moving. I dropped my keys in the little bowl by the hallway table, took off my shoes, and headed straight to the bedroom like I always do. That was my ritual. My wife, Vanessa, didn't say a word when I walked in, and neither did the brothers beyond a quick head nod. But I didn't pick up on it at the time. I just figured I'd catch up with them later after I changed. Now, before we go further, I think it's important to explain the situation we were in. Things hadn't been easy for us for a while. I used to have a good job with a decent salary and benefits. But that all went out the window when the company downsized. I looked for something close to what I had, but nothing came up that didn't require relocating or taking a major pay cut. Eventually, I took what I could find, because sitting at home jobless wasn't an option. Still, it was a big shift for us, from upper-middle comfort to scraping by. And the thing is, my wife, Vanessa, never really bought into it. She said she believed me, but her actions told a different story. She started checking up on what I spent, asking where every dollar went. I'd give her my pay stubs, explain the deductions, and show her the bills. But deep down, she didn't trust it. She thought I was hiding money, spending it on someone else, or holding out. That led to arguments. It wasn't just about money. It became about respect and about trust. I felt like I was dragging a weight up a hill alone, providing what I could, working long hours, and still being treated like a liar. Our child, who is just 7, saw more than she should have and heard more than she needed to. And as a man and as a father, that broke me in places I didn't know could break. So yeah, when I came home that day, but still, I wasn't ready for what was waiting just beyond that bedroom door. When I walked into the bedroom, my shirt was halfway unbuttoned, and I was reaching for the towel on the back of the door. My plan was simple. Shower first, then anything else can follow. But as soon as I pulled off my shirt, I heard the door open behind me. It was Vanessa. She just stood there, arms crossed, blocking the door like a checkpoint, and said, "We need to talk." I didn't even turn to look at her right away. I just said, "Can I shower first?" I already knew where this might go. We had been tense for weeks. Conversations had turned into arguments. Arguments had turned into silence. I figured if I could delay it just a little, maybe we'd both cool down and talk like adults. But Vanessa wasn't having it. "No," she snapped. "You're not pushing this off. We're talking now." So I turned around slowly, holding my towel in one hand, still halfway undressed. I looked her in the eye. I didn't say anything. I just waited. And then she said it, straight out. "I'm done. I'm tired of this marriage. I want out." Just like that. At first, I honestly thought she was bluffing. I didn't believe her. Not fully. We'd had fights before, some worse than this stretch we were in. People say a lot of things in the heat of frustration. I figured she was just venting, trying to shock me into a reaction. So I did what people sometimes do when they feel cornered. I shrugged it off. I said something dismissive. "Then go ahead," I told her. "If that's what you really want, do it." I didn't yell or beg. I was taken aback when Vanessa reached into her bag and brought out a thick envelope, which she handed over to me. When I looked through it, I didn't even register what it was. But once I saw the words, "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage," stamped on the top, everything inside me just dropped. Divorce papers. Already signed by her. I stared at her, trying to make sense of it. We'd been married for almost 9 years. Built a life together. Fought through bills, sickness, birthdays, late nights with the kids, and here she was calmly telling me it was over, like she was reading a grocery list. I asked her, "Is this really how you want our marriage to end?" I needed to hear her say it. Needed to know if this was a moment of stress or something fixable. She said yes. It was like I'd already been erased from her life, and this was just her cleaning up the last detail. I didn't know what to say back. I was not sure what I was even doing. I finally decided to head toward the bathroom when Vanessa suddenly screamed like she was in danger. It was confusing because we hadn't been arguing. I wasn't even near her. But the way she yelled, anyone listening would have thought I had raised a hand to her. That scream was a strategy. It was meant to summon her brothers. And it worked. Within seconds, the bedroom door burst open. Her 2 brothers stormed in, with no questions asked. One of them grabbed me by the back of my head, the other by my shirt, and before I could even speak, they were dragging me through the hallway. I wasn't resisting. I was too stunned to even process what was happening. They yanked me out like I was some intruder. They shoved me out the front door onto the porch like garbage. One of them looked at me with pure disgust and said, "Don't come back here. Ever." The other added, "You heard her. You're done. You don't belong here anymore." I looked them in the eye and said the only thing I could, "You're going to regret doing this to me." They laughed. One of them actually clapped his hands and shouted, "Go cry to a lawyer." And then they slammed the door in my face. I asked them to allow me to take my things, but I was ignored. I was humiliated. But I was going to do something legally, and in a way they'd never see coming. So I called my lawyer. He didn't ask many questions on the phone, just told me he was coming. He brought something for me to wear. Within an hour, we were sitting in a cramped office at the police station. I walked them through the entire incident, step by step, and explained how her brothers physically threw me out of the house. My lawyer took notes silently. When I finished, he leaned back, tapped his pen against his notebook, and said, "This isn't just divorce. There's something else going on here." He had a point. This was extreme and sudden. He told me that when a woman ends a marriage this coldly, it usually means she already has a next step lined up, either someone else or something she doesn't want me to know. That idea made me sick to my stomach because it started to make sense. She hadn't been acting normally in the weeks before. We agreed on 2 things that day. First, we weren't going to fight the divorce, at least not directly. If she wanted out, she could have it. But we were going to fight back where it counted. I had been physically assaulted and unlawfully thrown out of my own home. That couldn't go unanswered. So we filed a formal police report against both of her brothers. Assault. Forced eviction. The whole thing. My lawyer said we'd need this on record, not just for justice, but because it would matter when custody and property got involved later. As my lawyer reviewed Vanessa's divorce terms in the days that followed, he discovered she was asking for full custody. Just Jeffrey gets visitation rights, maybe. I could take the hit emotionally. I could even take losing the house. But handing over my child, like that wasn't happening. I looked my lawyer in the eye and said, "We'll fight it." Because no matter what my bank account said, I was there. I showed up for my child. I'd struggled the last year or 2. Life had been rough. I wasn't driving luxury cars or investing in beach condos like Vanessa dreamed about. But I never missed a day of being a dad. That meant something. And I told my lawyer flat out, "She can keep everything, but I'm not walking away from my kid." The legal process was tense from the start, with both sides digging in. But it was like a month in, just as the custody battle was heating up, that we realized something. My lawyer called me one afternoon with a voice that sounded surprised. Apparently, during document review, something came up that hadn't been disclosed up front. Vanessa had recently come into money. A lot of money. One of her aunts had passed away and left her a massive inheritance. Stocks, primarily. We're not talking a couple thousand tucked away in a retirement fund. This was over $10 million. That one fact made everything click in my head. Her attitude, her rush to file, her sudden coldness, and this aggressive push for full custody. She wasn't just leaving me. She was repositioning her entire life, with money in her corner and the assumption that I'd be too weak to fight back. But once that detail came out, my lawyer jumped on it. We filed motions for full financial disclosure, not just the stocks, but any transfers, hidden accounts, shell investments, whatever she thought she could slide under the radar. The court took it seriously. She was forced to open the books. And for the first time in this whole mess, Vanessa didn't look so sure of herself. The narrative shifted. She wasn't just the wife, escaping a struggling husband. She was the millionaire trying to strip a father of his child while pretending her fortune didn't change anything. But it did. And now the court knew it too. When my lawyer first mentioned spousal support, I hesitated. Not because I didn't think I deserved it, but because I knew exactly how Vanessa would react. And sure enough, when it came up in court, she shifted in her seat like the idea physically disgusted her. It was like she couldn't believe I'd even ask for something like that, as if the money she now had made her completely forget who had been paying the bills for most of our marriage. My lawyer made the case clear. There was a massive financial gap between us now, and I'd spent years making sure she and our kid had everything they needed. After we got married, I paid off her student loans immediately. She didn't even have to think about that debt again. When our daughter was born, Vanessa chose not to go back to work, and I supported that decision fully. I took on everything while she focused on being a mom, which I respected deeply. But those choices had consequences for me too. I passed up a major opportunity to grow just so I could move closer to her family, because she said she needed the support system. I gave up a lot, not grudgingly, but intentionally, for our life together. And now, after all that, she's loaded. And I'm standing in court like I'm asking for a handout just because I don't have millions in my name. She looked at me like I was trying to rob her. But my lawyer laid it out. The law exists to protect people from exactly this kind of imbalance. And whether Vanessa liked it or not, she didn't get to rewrite history just because she had money now. Soon, the court finally handed down its decisions for the different cases in the suit against Vanessa and her brothers. What they did to me, the judge didn't take it lightly. Each of them was fined, and more importantly, the court issued a restraining order. They can't come near me anymore, not at home, not at work, not even by accident. That gave me a deep sense of relief. Then came the divorce ruling itself. Vanessa had made it clear she wanted everything. The house, the car, our daughter, and a clean break for me with no financial strings attached. But the court didn't see it that way. The judge looked at what we had built during our marriage, then divided the marital assets fairly. Not 50-50 to the dollar, but close enough that neither of us walked away empty-handed. It stung her pride, I could tell, but that wasn't my problem. I hadn't asked for more than my share. I just wasn't going to be left with nothing. The biggest blow to Vanessa, though, came when the court addressed custody. She came in painting herself as the better parent, acting like my role in our child's life had been limited or replaceable. But the facts told a different story. I'd been there from day one. The judge saw that. And in the end, we were granted equal custody. 50-50. Our daughter wouldn't be used as a pawn or a trophy. She'd have both parents equally. And I could see it, the way Vanessa's jaw clenched when the judge said those words. She wasn't used to being told no. And then came the alimony. That part hit her hardest. The court looked at the years we'd spent together, at how I supported the household while she was still finding her footing. They considered the shift in financial balance, the fact that she now had more than enough to live comfortably, while I had to rebuild. The ruling. Vanessa would have to pay me monthly alimony for a set period. Not forever, but enough to help me get stable. I could feel her glare burning a hole in the side of my face. She genuinely believed that because the money was inherited, it made her untouchable. The law didn't see it that way, and for once, neither did the people enforcing it. When the court session ended and I stepped outside, Vanessa came storming out after me. She walked right up, pointed her finger at me, and spat out the word shameless. Said I was disgusting for taking a woman's money I hadn't earned. I didn't flinch. I just looked at her and smiled. I told her, "Thank you, Vanessa, for divorcing me." That was it. Whether she knew it or not, she'd done me a favor. That divorce was freedom. And, yeah, the alimony the court ordered. She didn't expect that. Vanessa tried to fight it, of course. Filed an appeal almost immediately. Probably thought she could charm her way into reversing the decision or twist it into some technicality. But it didn't work. The court stood firm, and so did I. She fell apart trying to shame me in front of people who had already made up their minds. After all the legal back and forth finally ended, life slowed down in a way I didn't expect. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't stuck chasing overtime hours just to keep up with someone else's expectations. I stopped living paycheck to paycheck. I stopped waking up with that sick feeling in my gut about bills and rent and whether we had enough groceries for the week. I made a decision early on. I wasn't going to let the bitterness of the divorce touch my child. Whatever had happened between my child's mother and me, the child wasn't going to carry the weight of it. So I showed up. I was there, fully. When we spent time, I started learning the names of the child's favorite cartoons and how he liked his sandwiches cut. Those little things used to blur by when I was running on fumes, working 2 jobs, and still coming home to complaints. Now, I finally had the bandwidth to just be present. And let me tell you, that's a different kind of wealth. I got a fair share of the marital assets in the divorce. It wasn't everything, but it was enough to set me on steady ground. And with the alimony payments she was now legally obligated to make, I didn't have to stretch myself thin doing work I hated just to survive. I wasn't rich, not by any means, but I was stable. And when you've lived in chaos long enough, stability feels like luxury. I moved into a modest place that I actually liked. No one hovered over my shoulder, telling me what was wrong or what I forgot to do. The peace was something I hadn't realized I missed until I had it again. What surprised me most was how little I actually needed. Supporting just myself and my kid didn't take nearly as much energy or money. There's a kind of simplicity to this life that I never had before.